I feel like I need a book, John. I need like 1,001 things to start off a podcast with, and then I could just turn to page 25 and be like, oh, rodeo clown, or this one's a snake charmer, and just go with that instead of trying to make everything up right at the beginning of every podcast.
Yeah, no, that's why I went with, when I did a podcast, I just went with a static intro that never changes ever. Mm-hmm. And then we just start the show after that.
Is it just turned down for what? Just like turned up as loud as humanly possible, just blasting over the airwaves?
No. We had our own theme song, just like Rage Select does.
Oh, yes.
And then I would, have an intro that I'd say over it. That pretty much it was the same every time, unless there was some special thing that made me go, I have an idea for something I could say or do for an intro that would be amazing. I
should really do that. I should really come up with something. We could workshop it later. It'd be like, hello, barbecue people. Welcome to Flavor Country here on Rage Select. By the way, welcome, Flavor people, to Barbecue Country. I am Jeff.
I'm John.
And just FYI, everybody, John and I are doing this podcast over Skype this week because, I don't know, I might be sick. I'm trying to keep as many human beings away from me as possible. So even though him and I live 2 minutes from each other, I did offer John an 8-foot stick that he could use to just
look. I told you I'm not going to come over until you get the herpes taken care of.
Oh, really? Yeah. The Valtrex is in the mail, all right. It's like,
well, once you get it, we'll talk.
I swear to God, man, you make out with one bar toilet, and then you just got super herpes the rest of your life. It's just, oh no, it's no good. It's no good. Well, I feel like this might be kind of a short podcast this week because, good God Almighty, did nothing. Just hardly. I'm scraping the stuff off the bottom of the barrel. I'm like double bottoming out here when it comes to stuff because there was very little in the ways of actual game announcements this week.
Yeah, I mean, most everything was last week in the
during Gamescom.
Yeah, during Gamescom, and then that's that was pretty much it. That was everything.
This is like the post E3 doldrums where you're just like, oh, motherfucker. Yeah. So I don't know if the news section doesn't go on as long as it normally does. Sorry about that. I can only report as many news stories as actually exist in the world. But before we get to the news, I got, let's say, John, how's it going? How's it going with you? I haven't seen you in, has it been 4 days? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, no, something like that. It's been pretty good. I've been playing a lot of No Man's Sky.
I was going to ask if you're still playing that.
Yeah, no, I actually just finished my No Man's Sky playlist for Spotify that I have going, so now I have, tunes that I actually listen to on Spotify when I play No Man's Sky. I got a new ship.
Okay.
And then flew up into space and got attacked by 5 space pirates and got obliterated.
Yep. As like you do. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a real. I'm trying to I'm not trying to be snarky here, but has the gameplay changed? I mean, not the loop, but have you run into lava planet or there's all pterodactyls on this planet, or I guess what I'm asking is it still kind of just not the same, not exactly the same. I'm not listen No Man's Sky fan, I'm not trying to disparage you, just I'm wondering, has it evolved or changed in a meaningful way? Or is it just kind of because I see a lot of people when they're talking about No Man's Sky, they'll say, oh, it's so relaxing. I like to just do this and relax and chill out, listen to music and, take a break from my day. And I'm that was kind of the thing that got old for me. And so I guess I'm curious to know, have you seen anything that's been more striking than, say, I guess what we saw on that one Sunday when we were playing, or generally speaking?
I mean, I did find a planet that was mostly made of water at one point. That I thought was really interesting. It was mostly water, and I found, I haven't really found too many differences as far as that. I mean, I did find some planets with some large creatures that I was a little bit disappointed in because you can't really interact with the large creatures.
Okay.
Because you just kind of go right through them, like they're not even there, which is a little bit disappointing. Yeah.
You can make in that live stream we were like totally making friends with those little worm guys. I want a dinosaur friend. I don't just want a dinosaur friend. I want a dinosaur friend that will get on my ship. That will I want to build him his own ship. I want to have like jetpack brontosaurus or whatever that game was. I want him just to fly around the cosmos with me, having adventures. Me and my my dino pal.
Yeah, no. So I would say, it's changed in minor ways, not so much in like grand, like game changing ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I haven't seen everything. So I mean, I feel like there is more to see. Like I feel like I haven't, like I'm seeing enough differences that I'm like, okay, there's going to be a point where I've got to find something interesting. I got to find, like, I will say the weirdest creature I saw was a deer that walked upright. It looked like a deer. It literally looked like a deer, and it was walking upright, and its front legs were just hanging down in front of it, but they were hooves.
Yeah.
On the end of the feet. Like, they weren't hands, they were just hooves, and it just walked upright. And it looked really ridiculous looking while walking.
I saw a video of something that was very similar to that looked like a dinosaur. I mean, it looked like a dinosaur with like the circle, like brontosaurus like feet, but it was just like, I'm walking around, and it had like a big chest because of the way that it was put together. So it looked like it was like just strutting around on the planet, just like, yeah, man, fuck you, I'm a dinosaur. Well, that's cool. I think that I figured it out this week because when I was playing Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, like I've gotten about 10 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours because I just keep staying up and playing the shit out of Deus Ex. And I think it's been a while since I've had a game where I can always tell when I really like a game because I get into that whole like, 5 more minutes, I'm just going to check out this one new thing that I got and then I'll go to bed. And then suddenly the sun is coming up. And I just didn't really get a lot of that out of No Man's Sky. But hey, whatever. To each his own. Like, I don't play Minecraft on the reg either. Fucking Jason Murphy plays a million times more Minecraft than I do. I do, though, really think that having a Spotify playlist to play while you're playing No Man's Sky does really enhance the experience because the default soundtrack is it's just a little bland for my taste. You need like Ride of the Valkyries or like the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. What do you got going?
I got mostly like I got a lot of like soundtracks from movies that are about space, but like not like musical orchestral like original soundtracks, but like like the awesome mixtape from Guardians of the Galaxy or some of the soundtrack from Armageddon.
Just Aerosmith on a loop.
Well, if you think about it, Armageddon is the perfect movie soundtrack to have because the movie is all about mining an asteroid in space.
Oh, it's an art, John. It's an art.
Yes, it's an art. You can't just train anyone to mine.
No.
But you can train anyone to be an astronaut. Apparently.
Oh yeah.
So and that's what this game is. This game is a miner who somehow ended up stranded in space, and he's traveling around mining planets, just doing his thing.
Oh, good God! That would actually be better if it was like Space Miner, the game,
But no, so I've got that. I've got, I've got a few other like random sci-fi movie like soundtracks. So it's actually really funny because the more I think about it, it's a lot of music from like the 70s and the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow, I have nothing but 70s and 80s soundtracks on here.
A lot of Twisted Sister. No,
not Twisted Sister. But I also added in some songs that are specifically themed towards space or out of space. There's a lot of David Bowie.
Okay.
In there. So a lot of David Bowie. I've got some. I'm just trying to think of some of the stuff off the top of my head. Anything that, like I said, anything that's space themed. Like there's a few. Like I got the entire from Brendan Smalls, his Galactatron album, which is basically a space opera, a heavy metal space opera. So I put that in there.
I need to listen to that.
Yeah, it's a good album. They're coming out with another one here pretty soon as well for that. But I put Daft Punk's Discovery on there because it was the soundtrack used to make. They had an anime made by the same guy who did Galaxy Express 3.9. I can't think of the name of it, but I own it on DVD and it's not anywhere in here, so don't know what the title of it is off the top of my head. But it's like Galaxy Rock something 666 or something. I can't remember the name of it. But it was a soundtrack, and basically the entire thing takes place in with aliens in space and things like that. So I figured, why not put that on there? I got like the gorillas. Every planet we go to is dead. I figured like that was
oh god
appropriate.
Sick burn, No Man's Sky. Okay, well that's cool. And so you're still enjoying it, but it sounds like you're getting to a place where something needs to happen, right? Something different maybe needs to happen.
I'm not bored with it. I'm not bored with it yet. But I'm also the type of person that there are times where I used to just sit there and just load up Minecraft, and I don't build things in Minecraft. I just wander around and dig a giant stairwell into the bottom of whatever it allows me to build to.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got nothing better to do.
I have a friend who started up a Minecraft server, and it's not even survival. It's what's the other one, like creative mode or whatever.
Yeah.
And she basically like had a whole world generated, and this is how I know that I relax in a different way than a lot of other people. Is she's just like, when I come home from work and I want to just not do anything, I'll just she's literally mining every unit out of the entire world, just one square at a time, and has like, it's like covered the top of the world, I think, in like glass in the area where she's mining, and then it's just like you just go down there and just mine out another big, just going back and forth, just mining out these giant holes down into the world of Minecraft. And I'm like,
yeah.
I need stuff that's more about shooting people in the face. I just need a little bit more shooting in the face.
I don't like playing those games all the time, but there are definitely times where that's where I'm in the mood too. And this game definitely scratches that itch, because I just kind of shut my brain off and fly around and mine minerals and scan objects, scan creatures, and try to get a bigger ship and try to get to the center of the galaxy.
Sure.
By the way, the name of that anime that I was talking about earlier was called Interstellar 555, the story of the secret star system. Really good too. If anyone out there hasn't seen it, it's literally just an anime done to Discovery, like their album Discovery. Like there is no dialogue or anything. It's just the album of Discovery played over this anime, and it's directed by Shinji Shimizu, who directed Galaxy Express 39 and Captain Harlock and things like that.
Okay, I've actually heard of that, but I've never actually watched it. Well, I tell you what, I have one story before we jump into the news. We my dog and I, Mr. Archer, Professor Dog, and I, last week we had a pretty serious milestone, John. He got his first bath. Yeah, and man. I honestly thought that we weren't going to be friends when we were done with this, because it's like I went, I got, like a shower head that I could use to spritz on him, because I can't just put him in a bathtub. And I like lured him into the recording room, and then I tried to lure him into the bathroom of the recording room. And like, he doesn't want to go into any bathroom at all. And so like I trapped him in the room, and then I kind of pushed him in there. Once he was in there, he was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not having it. And then I had to like pick him up and put him in the tub. And it was basically just a horror show. At every moment, he was trying to leave the bathtub to get away. He was trembling like the world was coming to an end the entire time. And I was just like, how could you be so scared this entire time? It's just water. We go walking in the rain all the goddamn time, dog. But it was pretty horrifying. By the end of it, I think we were both covered. I think I'm pretty sure that I am completely inoculated against the fleas and ticks now, John. That all the fleas and ticks can fuck off of me, because I got enough of that shampoo all over me that I was literally I was looking at the bottle like, is this gonna kill me? Am I gonna die from whatever you have in this medicated shampoo? But
maybe.
then I don't know. I might just get it might just make my coat a lot shinier. That's my end goal, right? Get that back hair all silky and smooth, just tease it out, braid it a little bit.
No, I totally know the thing with the dog, because my dog, she does not like baths either. But it's funny, she hates the act of getting the bath, but she likes the results of the bath. So she's very conflicted. Like there are times where she's like, "Oh, bath? I want a bath. I want a bath." And then she'll be in the bath like, "Nope, I changed my mind. I don't want this. I don't want this. I didn't want this. I thought I wanted it, but I don't want it. I don't want it." And then like you force her to stay in there and like clean her up and everything. And then afterwards she's like, "Yeah, this is awesome. I'm like clean and this is awesome. I love this."
Yeah, but your dog, you could like pick up your dog with one hand.
This is true.
My dog, I had to. It was like a wrestling match to get him into the tub, and then he kept wanting to get out of it, and then it was just like, oh god damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty funny. Also, you haven't lived until you've seen my big scary pit bull just like standing there with water streaming down him, looking just completely pathetic. If I hadn't been immunized to all of his sad dog eyes charms over the years, I think I would be. I might have been like, oh well, that's all right. You don't need a bath. But as it is, it's just kind of like, I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're gonna do it. All right. Well, one more thing before we jump in. There was a new movie trailer this week for Rings.
Yes, the third Ring movie, the U.S. version.
I don't remember. I don't think I ever watched the second one. I think I watched
bad.
Oh, was it?
It was terrible.
Well,
I like the first movie. I hate the second movie.
I see. Okay, so here's the thing: is that back in the the early 2000s when it was like the J horror thing was all the rage, when you had The Grudge and The Ring and and Darkwater or Blackwater, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Like I was really into all those movies. I was watching all of them. I was like, holy shit, this is actually kind of scary because it's more suspenseful. And then when I remember when they made the U.S. version of The Ring and I watched it and I was just like, the problem with the U.S. version of The Ring is the fact that we couldn't have a psychic character. We could not have a character because in the Japanese version, there's that guy and he's just like, well, I'm a psychic. It's my day job and I do it my off time. I'm a psychic. And so there's a lot of the backstory of Sudoku or whatever her name is, Sakota or
Samara in the US version.
Yeah, where that gets filled in by being like, oh, well, I'm psychic, so I know these things. Whereas in the US version, it's like Naomi Watts she has to be like going to the library and like adjusting the tracking on the video and trying to, it's just to put all this stuff together in a way that I felt like was just a little bit clunkier than if, they had just let, I mean, I guess you didn't have to have somebody be a psychic, but it's just, it was more of like a mystery, I guess, than the Japanese version was, where in the Japanese version it was more just like, what the fuck are we going to do about this horrible curse?
Yeah. Though I did hear in Japan there actually apparently is a crossover between Ringu and The Grudge.
Oh my god, I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring that because I didn't know this was a thing until yesterday when Jason Murphy mentioned it on Twitter, and I watched there's a trailer for it out that came out like in April, and I fucking love this, man. It's like Freddy versus Jason, but it's Sudoku, I can't remember her name, and then like the lady goes to goes from Grudge, and it's like it's like somebody played the Ring video in the Grudge house and now they're gonna fight, and I'm just like, how is that even gonna work? How are they gonna fight each other? They're both just weird. They're essentially the same thing. It's just one of them is painted white and the other one has the hair in her face.
One of them comes out of a TV and the other is just in the house being creepy.
I do like there's this one in the trailer for Ring versus Grudge. There's this one shot where like what's her name, like Kamoko or Kadoka. There's the lady, the spirit from what is it here? I can see Kayako as the spirit from the Grudge, where it's like you see the Ring tape and her hand just slams down and crunches the tape, and I'm just like, oh man, I want more of these team ups. I want to see more. I mean, I guess that's really the only one. I'm trying to think of other Japanese horror movies that I'd like to see fight each other, but I'm not really. I mean,
yeah,
like, I don't. Gamera versus Godzilla. I don't. I tell you what though. I'll tell you what would make this even better though. Oh my god! I got it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm all ears, sir.
Yep. Okay, so you got The Ring versus The Grudge, and the main character is the creepy dude from Death Note. He's the guy, and he's like trying to investigate these murders that keep happening, and it takes him to the house with and then like at the very end when all might be lost, Light shows up and the fucking Shinigami jumps into the mix, and now we've got Grudge versus Ring versus Death Note versus Trigun versus Cowboy Bebop.
I was gonna say, can we also somehow figure out a way to get the girl from The Eye in there as well?
Yeah, sure. But just everybody. It's just, dude, like it's going to be Mad Monster Party, but with J horror elements and also a bunch of anime for no reason whatsoever. And then a Titan from Attack on Titan just steps on the house and it's all over.
Yeah.
But back to this Rings trailer. I actually think it's a really good idea because the first few Ring movies didn't really take advantage of a world where we all have screens that play videos constantly.
Well, yeah, because they were on VHS tapes.
Yeah, it was like a single VHS tape that you have to like you have to pass it around. Like at least in the beginning, it was like, oh man, you got to come over. I got this crazy bootleg video, and I figured now, like if you had a movie that was set now with 16-year-olds, they're like, oh, you got to come over. I got this crazy bootleg VHS tape, and they'd be like, most of those words didn't make sense to me.
Or they'd be like, you hipster scum.
Yeah. Or like,
what are you, from Austin, Texas?
Just put it on YouTube, man. Just send it to me on Facebook. But I was thinking about how, like, I don't know if we even know from the original Ring saga. Like, what happens if like, you watch the tape and I'm watching the tape like at the same time? Do we get into like an It Follows situation where she goes after one person and then like, if that person dies, then it goes on to the next person. So it's like you could chain. It just occurred to me, It Follows is totally like The Ring, except that you just have sex instead of having somebody watch a videotape. Huh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This whole trailer seems like the whole point is that Samara wants to make this other lady into like it wants to possess her or something like that, because it's not
to be reborn in her or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. Also, I feel like this trailer shows too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there was better ways they could have done that. But yeah, this one, I just felt like I saw too much. Like I feel like I know most of, if not the whole movie now. Mm-hmm. But that's common now with trailers.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you think you know everything, but you're going to be real surprised when the fucking Candyman comes out at the end of this movie.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like, get out of here. This is I call dibs on all American horror movies. And then Freddy, and then Jason, and then
somehow the Blair Witch gets involved.
Oh, yeah. Get that Blair Witch in there, man. Get that Blair Witch.
The Blair Witch sequel's coming out soon.
Get that Paranormal Activity demon in there too. You know, let's just we've run out of ideas entirely. We're rehashing old stuff. Let's just rehash everything. Let's just go for it. And then Frankenstein watches the Ring tape, and oh man, it's just a big mess.
I would love to actually see some of a resurgence of the actual movie monsters, and not in the way that Dracula movie that was done. That was bullshit.
Was it both that? It was like what, Dracula Unbound or Unleashed,
Untold or something.
It wasn't that, and I Frankenstein both supposed to be in like the same universe, setting up the dumb.
I don't know if I Frankenstein wasn't part of that. I Frankenstein was actually based on a comic book.
Oh, okay. I was.
But yeah, that Dracula Untold or whatever the hell it was called, that was supposed to be the first of a new cinematic movie, Universal movie, monster movie franchise.
You know what I feel like is, okay, so they're trying to do an Avengers thing with Dracula Untold, where they're going to bring in the Wolfman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Mummy, and Frankenstein, and all that stuff. Like, you don't, like, if there was ever an argument for why you don't need like 5 movies to lead up to your Avengers movie, it's this. We all know these monsters. They're like literally in the zeitgeist. We don't need another telling of like, oh, it's hey everybody, gather around. Let me tell you the story about how Dracula became Dracula. Completely just inconsequential to the movie. All you have to do is be like, that's Dracula, and we'll all just be like, okay, move on.
I mean, shit, just make a sequel to Monster Squad and call it a day.
Yeah. And then
Love that
Freddy
movie.
comes in into Monster Squad. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to see more crossover. I know, actually, I just want to go watch Freddy versus Jason again. That's what I want to do.
Go watch it.
I like that movie. All right, well, enough Monster Mash. Let's get into the gaming news, of which, as I said before, there's very little. But we're starting with a little Dark Souls. We start with the Dark Souls. Yep. Dark Souls 3 Ashes of Ariandel announcement trailer.
This was hilarious because they announced it, then they deleted the announcement, and then a day later they re-announced it.
Oh, did they do that bullshit? I wasn't.
Yeah.
So okay. I'm gonna show a little bit of my my badness here. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think this is a thing. I don't think. No, okay. I don't think that Ariandel is a thing that we already know what it is.
Okay.
There's some speculation online that it might be related to the painted world of Ariamis. There's some possibility that it might be that Ariandel might be the third daughter of the queen in Dark Souls 3, which unfortunately I'm still kind of hazy about what exactly is going on in Dark Souls 3 because I just didn't have as much of a desire to go back and play it as I did the first one. So this trailer, though, is kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of what I would expect from... This is the...
Yeah, if you showed me this trailer without telling me what it was, I'd be like, this is Dark Souls.
Yeah. It looks like they're doing... it's a little bit of a shame because... It's a little bit of a shame because it looks like they're doing a very kind of like snowy, ashy area, and there was actually a snowy area in the Dark Souls 2 DLC that you and I never played. And there's kind of a snowy like town in Dark Souls 3. But this is kind of standard fare for anybody. I mean, maybe it's because every time I get wasted, I watch the Bloodborne DLC trailer because it's like my favorite of all of their trailers. But this is almost beat for beat like what that trailer kind of was, where we start out with some cryptic talking about stuff, and then we've got a little gameplay montage, and some of the things that we're seeing are areas from Dark Souls 3 with like different weaponry. We're seeing some of the bosses from Dark Souls 3. There's actually a couple of points where what they're showing in this trailer, and I know that you don't know this because you haven't played Dark Souls 3, is just boss fight footage from Dark Souls 3. And like the characters don't have any new weapons, or they don't seem to be sporting anything really super different as far as armor goes, to the point where it's kind of like you're just padded at this point. But I don't know. I always think that all of the Souls games get way better once you've added the DLC in, because it always rounds out the story a little bit better. So regardless of what I think about this particular trailer, I'm still excited to see it come out. What did you think? You've watched a fair amount of Dark Souls, John.
Yeah.
What did you think about this?
It looked like Dark Souls. I was like, oh, this looks like more Dark Souls. So I'm okay. I'll probably end up playing it on some let's play with you on Patreon or something at some point.
Yeah, maybe. There seems to be a lot of kind of like, there's at least one part where there's very much kind of like in a snowstorm, you see this giant enemy that kind of looks very Norse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Big antlers on the top of the head. It looks like there's definitely some kind of crazy story with a bunch of NPCs holding stuff out. I think that if this is going back, I'm gonna say maybe a bit of an unpopular opinion here, but I think that if this is going back to the painted world of Ariamis, from Dark Souls 1, I think that's a terrible idea, because I think that there's a lot of people out there, and of course there's no way for them to have known this before they put the game out, but Dark Souls 3 spends a lot of time kind of referencing Dark Souls 1. Not so much 2, a little bit 2, but not so much 2. But it spends a lot of time just kind of going, you remember this from Dark Souls 1. You guys like this in Dark Souls 1. Check it out here. And the painted world in Dark Souls 1 is a real big fan favorite. So going back there, if this is in that setting, to me is a little bit of a drag, because it's just like, I want to see new stuff. My favorite things from Miyazaki are new things. Like Bloodborne, like all the new shit that we saw in Bloodborne. So, Looks like there's some new bosses. Some dude with a giant magma bowl fights the big magma bowl. There's like a big skull head thing that kind of looks like Nito a little bit. But other than that, yeah, we'll see in all the articles that I'm reading said that it has an October release date in Japan, but none of them say that that's been confirmed for the U.S. But I can only imagine that after what happened with their Japanese release, that they're going to go ahead and do it simultaneously. Or at least I hope so.
Well, I think that was when they posted the video at the same time as the Japanese Twitter posted the video or whatever, and then the U.S. Bandai U.S. or whatever, not Bandai. Is it Bandai?
Yeah, Namco Bandai is the publisher. From Software is the
they deleted the post on the U.S. Twitter, and then like a few days later reposted it, which could have been like that they were wanting to verify that it was also coming out in the U.S. in October. Okay. I think that was what they were trying to make sure of, and then I think it is coming out here.
Yeah, I mean, on this is on the PlayStation channel that I'm looking at the trailer, and it does just say Dark Souls 3 will be available on October 25th. So there we go. Issue solved. Apparently, I mean, from the description of this YouTube video, it's like new armor sets, weapons, and magic to aid you in discovering this new location, which is kind of just par for the course with this. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, from the season pass, there are going to be 2 of these, 2 DLCs for Dark Souls 3. So I don't know if each one of them, I don't get the impression from this trailer, and maybe it's going to be. Maybe, I mean, I'd like to think that if they having 2 and both of them are as big as the Old Hunters was in Bloodborne, that could add a significant amount of content that could then end up kind of clarifying and making Dark Souls 3 in my opinion, like a whole game, because I don't feel like these games are done until all the DLC is out, which is so weird because most of the times I hate DLC. The only kind of disappointing thing, I guess, is that the second DLC isn't coming out until early 2017.
Yeah.
Which means that, I mean, and this is such just like kind of an inside baseball thing, but it just means that when it comes to doing kind of game of the year questions, I feel like it's hard to evaluate a game like Dark Souls 3 until all the DLC is out. But whatever, I've been meaning to go back and play it again, so I guess I'll need a character for the DLC. I actually never finished the game on the PlayStation 4 because I beat it on the Xbox One. I have to probably go back. All right. Well, next up, we have a slew of PlayStation 4 things Sony PlayStation news.
All right.
First off, we've got it's hard because there's a bunch of update. I've seen a bunch of articles that are like PlayStation 4 Slim confirmed, and none of them seem to have any actual confirmation from Sony that
there has been no confirmation from Sony. But Sony's actually been very tight-lipped about it, very non-commenting about it.
Mm-hmm. But somebody apparently got a hold of one of these bad boys, which looks an awful lot. Well, it looks kind of like the PlayStation. You know what? It looks like a hardware refresh. It's a little bit smaller. It's got physical buttons. It's got the same kind of ports on the front of it.
Yeah, but you can actually tell what button is what now on the front of it.
Oh, hush, John. There's only 2 buttons. It's the top button and the bottom button.
They don't even look like buttons on the original.
That's true. I mean, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to admit to the audience that when I got my PlayStation 3 for the first time, it took me, I kept turning the switch on the back on and off over and over again, and I was just like, the fuck do you turn this thing on? Because it also had that little capacitive, you just run your finger over that one part of it and it would turn it on.
Yeah, and then trying to figure out which one was the eject button was also a bit of a pain in the ass.
Oh man, I have inadvertently ejected a lot of PlayStation 3 games on that original monster fatty PS3.
Yeah, but no, I'm just talking about the PS4. I'm not even talking about PS3. I'm just at least PS3, they're giant logos were on the touch sensors for it. I mean, on the PS4, the logos are so tiny they might as well not even be there. The buttons are almost so slim that they don't even look like buttons. You can't even tell that they're there.
Nope.
it's like I love the PlayStation 4. Don't get me wrong, I do, but those buttons are like the bane of my existence.
They do suck a bit. What I would really like to know about the PlayStation 4 is on the PlayStation 4 when you turn the PlayStation 4 off. Actually, no, this hardware redesign solves one of the like this is a full on nobody except for Jeff is having this issue. But I move my PlayStation 4 around a lot. When we're recording, I'll have it up here. Sometimes I'll be like, I want a marathon of Hulu. I'm going to take it downstairs and hook it up to my TV downstairs. And when I do that and I turn the PlayStation 4 off, it's all the way off, and I unplug it, and then I lift it up. Invariably, my arm or my hand or my elbow or whatever brushes up against that power button, and even though it's turned off and unplugged, it has enough charge to try to turn itself on, and then the next time I boot it up, it's all just like, hey, you didn't shut down properly. It's like, I did shut down properly, you stupid console. But with this, it's like the buttons are kind of recessed in a little bit, so that looks like it's going to be a thing that nobody except for me had a problem with that now nobody except for me will have fixed. But yeah. But I'm not. I don't think I'm going to get one of these. Like I don't. This is kind of like the Xbox Slim, where it's like if my PS4 broke, I might get one of these. But this is just a hardware refresh, and I'm wondering, like, does this mean because Sony's been so tight-lipped about this, they're supposed to be having like some kind of thing in what is it, September? They're going to be having some kind of like, we're going to announce a bunch of new stuff, and I feel like a lot of this is leaks from that. So I don't know. Here's a question on what kind of money would you give on whether or not whether the PlayStation Neo is going to be done, is going to be in. Do you think it'll be in stores by Christmas this year?
Probably,
because and I was thinking about that today, and I was like, because we've had all of this horrible leakage that there is a PlayStation Neo. They're having an event in September where they're going to be announcing a bunch of stuff. It wouldn't be beyond them to announce or to release the PlayStation Neo and get it in stores by this holiday season, along with the PS4 Slim with a price reduction. Isn't that just going to fuck Microsoft in a huge way? Because there's still, like a year out on the Scorpio? So if the Neo is in stores this Christmas and we're getting the Nintendo NX at the beginning of next year, which I don't think is going to be a huge competitor in this game, but it's still another console. Yeah. That's going to be a lot of people who, if they've got Christmas money this year, that they're going to go ahead and buy this thing. If a person is out there trying to make a choice now, it seems like having that console it market. We talk about this all the time, but again, I feel like it harkens back to the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 days of like that PlayStation in those days always seemed to be about 8 to 9 months behind Microsoft, and that it really took a chunk out of their early business. They really had to do a kind of an uphill battle to kind of get as much market share because the Xbox was throwing stuff out so fast and furious that it was kind of hard for them to keep up. And it kind of seems like the tables have been reversed here, that, if you're looking for a next-gen system that's going to be able to run stuff a little bit better and that Neo is already out at Christmas, I don't know, it just seems like a rough timetable for Microsoft.
It's definitely possible. I mean, I figured the Neo would be coming out around October, around the same time that the VR was supposed to come out, because the Neo is supposed to you don't need like the VR, like it is able to do the VR natively, like the rumors, and that with the original PlayStation 4, like you have to have like a box that you hook up to it so that it can do the VR.
Right.
So I figured they were going to get the Neo ready by the time VR comes out in October.
Well, maybe it'll even launch along with it in October. Oh man, that would be, they put out a like a bundle that has both the Neo and the PSVR and the camera and a couple of wands, so you just go at Christmas time and buy that whole big box that has everything in it. Oof, that would be. I don't know. It just seems really rough because it also. I mean, okay, the graphical fidelity between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One is relatively similar. I think the PS4 has a little bit of an edge sometimes in frame rate, a little bit of graphical fidelity, but not so much that if you're playing something, not like the PS3 had when it was early days of the PS3, and games that were on both platforms just looked like shit on the PS3. But if the Neo, along with the VR stuff, also does what Scorpio is doing with like better, with the games having higher frame rates or better resolution or more detail or lower load times, if Scorpio's still a year out and people start, using a PlayStation Neo at Christmas, it means that Neo versus, whatever the stock Xbox One is going to make that difference a lot more pronounced. At least I would think. I mean, again, this is all just butthole speculation of the highest caliber, but and I say all this not to, as always, not to bag Microsoft. I really want Microsoft to be so close to slitting Sony's throat at every moment. I want them both in a Mexican standoff where, the PlayStation 4 Neo VR bundle has to have $100 discount at Christmas time because they're trying to compete with the new Scorpio Oculus bundle that's out this Christmas time, or whatever. But anyway, back to the actual Neo itself. It looks really similar.
That's not a picture of a Neo. That's basically a PS4 Slim.
Oh, the Slim,
which is not the same thing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Back to the Slim. The actual hardware, it reminds me a lot of kind of the shift between the PS3 Fatty and the PS3 Slim. It's got like a matte, more of a matte finish to it. It looks like it's a little bit smaller. I don't know. I mean, I look at this in perspective, and it looks to be kind of similar in size to the PlayStation 4, or to my PlayStation 4. I mean, it's not exactly like my PlayStation 4 is, a huge unwieldy box that is taking up a lot of space, but I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know.
A little bit smaller. But I tell you what, the thing that actually is a little bit more interesting to me is the the controller.
Oh yeah, didn't they say that's going to be a new DualShock controller?
Yeah, it looks like just again like a refresh to the DualShock 4 controller. It looks like they've changed the D-pad and the analog sticks to probably I'm holding the D-pad for my PlayStation right now, and the D-pad that I'm looking here looks like the D-pad itself looks like it's probably matte with more of like a grip to it than the shiny kind of slick version that's on the PS4 right now. The analog sticks look about the same. What I think is actually really cool, though, is that it looks like they put a little clear window at the top of the touchpad. So when the light on the front lights up, you can see what color that light is on when you're looking at the face of the controller.
Oh, okay.
Which is great because unless you're playing games in the dark, I almost never know what color that light on the front of the controller is. It just really has very little actual purpose. But and then in addition to that, there's also some rumors. There's a listing out there for a PC dongle that you can use to wirelessly hook up your PlayStation 4 controller to your PC, which is pretty nifty.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
it looked really cool because I know a lot of people were really happy about that because a lot of people have been wanting to, while it is, you can pair a PlayStation 4 controller with a PC. It's not as easy.
Yeah. I guess I just wonder whether whether there is going to be whether it's going to be able to take advantage of like the XNA framework or whatever, and basically on like Steam games that use an Xbox controller, whether you're going to be able to use the PS4 controller, because I actually like the PS4 controller a little bit better than the Xbox controller, but so far, I'm not willing to run. There's that weird third party app that you have to run to get it to work, and so I hope that they realize that it should just work. That would be nice.
I agree.
But the other part of that particular announcement is that apparently PlayStation Now is also coming to the PC. So when you have your PS4 DualShock 4 controller hooked up to your PC, you can buy yourself the streaming PlayStation Now service, and I guess you could play what they got, like 300 or 400 games on PlayStation Now at this point.
Yeah.
So you could play Uncharted on your PC for the first time, and you have to do it with that whole streaming thing. But if you've got a fast internet connection, I guess that would be that'd be pretty decent, right? I mean, just come on, Google Fiber. Come on, man, get up here. But I think that kind of represents like the first time, at least that I've seen in history, where you could play some Sony specific games, some PlayStation specific games on the PC, even if they are PlayStation 3 games. They don't have any PlayStation 4 games on PlayStation Now, right? That's
no. It's just PS3 and PS2.
okay. They have. Oh yeah. Do they have PS2 games on there?
I thought they did. I mean, I could be wrong.
I think it's only PlayStation 3 because
maybe it is.
Maybe not. Somebody can correct me. Oh no. I'm just looking at a list here. There's Killzone, first Killzone, which that's definitely PS2. Okay, cool. Magician Lord. All right. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then last but certainly not least, there was a leak from a Foxconn worker. This is so like tangential, but there was a Foxconn worker on the assembly lines at Foxconn who reported, and it was over at NeoGAF, that he saw a thing that looked a lot like a PSP type thing. So there's some buzz. There's some buzz that this might be just the NX controller. This might just be him mistaking what the Nintendo NX controller is going to be for a PSP, which I could kind of see that. But then there's also some question as to whether or not in this whole big thing in September, whether we're going to see a new Vita, maybe like a hardware refresh for the Vita, or
okay.
Sony couldn't possibly. I mean, Vita sales have been atrocious, right? They couldn't possibly be making a new PlayStation Vita, right? They could be making a Vita 2.
Oh, good God! I hope not.
I mean, we would have heard, right? There would have been some third-party developer that would have gotten access to some SDK and broken their NDA, or the janitor there is like, oh shit, there's going to be a Vita 2, and I mean, we already saw leaks just about the controller and the Slim and all this other stuff that we would have had to have heard of it by now.
You would think,
dude. What if they? Man, if they put out a PlayStation Vita that had 2 sets of shoulder buttons and actually worked a little bit better than the Vita, was a little bit like take that back touch screen off, put a second shoulder button on there, and let me use that just dedicated as a remote play thing from PS4. Get that remote play thing all sorted out, and let me use it like an NVIDIA Shield on my PS4. If it worked, I would totally get one of those, but. Like the last time I tried to do that, I was playing Dragon Age that requires both shoulder buttons, and I only had one set of shoulder buttons. It was like I'm not using that back touchpad like it's a button, because it's not a button. So, do you have a Vita, John?
No, I didn't. I completely. I bought a PSP back when it first came out, and I was pretty much like, no, there's no way they can. No, I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry.
I've been so disappointed in the Vita. I'm really disappointed in the Vita, because early on I remember them showing all those videos about. I remember them showing all those videos that were like, "Look how easy it is to port PlayStation 3 games to this device. Like this device will totally run PlayStation 3 games with a minimal amount." They had a thing where they were like, "Oh yeah, we localized this Yakuza cutscene or gameplay element onto the PS Vita in like a week," and I was like, great. If the PS Vita was nothing but a PlayStation 3, a portable PS3 where you could just play most of the shit that was on the PS3.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it just would have been great. Would have been great. As it is, it's just like I do not ride the bus. I don't fly a lot, and I don't go to grandma's house but once a year. So, nope. That's just no. All right. Well, last but not least on the Sony news, this is just an FYI for everybody. PlayStation Plus is getting more expensive on September 22nd.
Yep. So if you already have a subscription, like if you already have like a 1-year gift card or something, then obviously nothing's going to happen until your paid service is done with already.
Yeah. But basically, they're kicking the price $10 up to $60 for a year, and then 3-month memberships are going from $18 to $25, which is a 39% increase, and then monthly memberships are still $10 for 30 days if you do it month to month. Personally, I think that that Sony has made the PlayStation Plus really attractive with the number of free things that they throw at you every month. So.
Yeah, but I will say that the games for PlayStation Plus these last couple of months have been kind of weak.
Oh, yeah? What have they been? Oh, yeah, it was like there was a Puzzle Tower one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, they've just all been kind of weak. I mean, don't get me wrong. Xbox Ones haven't been the best either. But I feel like they have been a little bit better, especially on the Xbox 360 side, which are now playable on Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wanted to make a comparison between whose free games are better kind of thing with their paid subscription service.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've been feeling like Sony's has been a little weak as of late, and I've been kind of hoping that they do something soon to kind of surprise people.
Well, this actually, you know what? I'm gonna say I just looked it up. This month for PlayStation Plus on the PS4, you get Tricky Towers, and then you also get Rebel Galaxy, which I thought was incredible. I really, really enjoyed Rebel Galaxy. And then on the PS3, you get Yakuza 5, like just straight up. And then on the Vita, Patapon 3, and also Retro/Grade. I don't even know what that is, and Ultratron. I don't know. I feel like that's, I guess the thing is that it's what I see is that for the cost of one game, I feel like you're getting quite a bit, in my opinion. You're forgoing one $60 video game, and in return you're getting a couple of free games every month, as well as the multiplayer if you're doing that sort of thing. So,
and having said that, if you know where to look, like if you don't just go to Best Buy and buy your 12-month gift card for PlayStation Plus or buy it directly from Sony's website or through the PlayStation, if you actually know where to look, you can find some pretty good deals on a 12-month card.
Oh yeah, I just have it auto drafting. So
yeah, I think the cheapest I've ever found it for, I got a 12-month card for $25.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then the last time I had to buy one, I couldn't find anything that cheap. I think the cheapest I found it for was like $30.
Here's all I did was type in 12-month PlayStation card. Oh, that's for Taiwan only, and that was $36.99. But yeah, I'd be willing to bet that you could probably find that stuff better off
if you know where to look. Look at cheap ass gamer or whatever.
Yeah. All right, well, it's time for trailers, John. And
more trailers.
Yep, our first trailer is Jazz Punk. You are delightfully insane. So Jazz Punk is coming to the PlayStation 4.
Yes, it is, as a director's cut.
Yep. It appears, I tried to look around to see if I could figure out what all was in here. There appears to be some new kind of like multiplayer kind of shooter thing that's in here that you can do up to 4 people in a split screen. They were real cagey about, at least in the blog post that I was reading, about what if there was going to be anything added to the single player. But what I will say is, if you, human listening to this podcast, have not yet played Jazz Punk and you have a PS4, I'd recommend playing Jazz Punk on the PS4.
Jazz Punk's pretty good.
It's pretty freaking ridiculous. It's absolutely bizarre. And all you have to do is watch this trailer that has just about nothing to do with Jazz Punk. It's like a live action, like what a little jazz punk guy, and he's completely naked and he's walking around a store like buying stuff, and then he goes to check out, and like the lady at the checkout counter is like, you're a time traveler who's come back in time to get cheap deals on groceries and you're causing inflation. It's so ridiculous. It's so just like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Did you ever play all the way to the end of Jazz Punk?
I did not play all the way to the end, but I did play a good portion of Jazz Punk.
It's so strange. It's so weird. For those of you who are curious, you can always go back and watch Jason and I play it on Indie Friday. Also, if you're a patron, I think that him and I finished it because I think it only takes about 90 minutes / 2 hours to finish. So I think that we wandered all the way through the end of Jazz Punk. So, but yeah, this looks pretty crazy. I kind of hope that it comes out in a week when nothing else is out, so that I have a reason to play Jazz Punk again, because I like to show somebody else this complete and total insanity, because it is.
If anything, just go search the official trailer for Jazz Punk Director's Cut on YouTube, because it's ridiculous.
It's so yeah. Even if you're not going to play it, I would highly recommend watching this, because it's like I don't even know what the fuck I just watched. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the game. Well, actually, you know what? I take it back. I was going to say, like, oh, it doesn't give you a good idea of what playing Jazzpunk is like. I take that back. It gives you a great idea of exactly what playing Jazzpunk is like, because playing this game is just as insane and demented as watching this trailer.
Yes.
Yeah. Next up, we have a trailer for Sea of Thieves, a little development diary called Aboard the Ship. And there's not a lot to this. I mean, I was kind of grasping at straws this week. I just really want to play this game. I am really excited. Like, I cannot wait for the Sunday streaming when we're able to play Sea of Thieves, because I want to get all of the Rage Select people. I want to sail the SS Rage Select out there and just plunder and pillage, and this is going to be a lot
Make as many pirate jokes as we can.
I was going to say
6 hours, 3 hours, however long we stream for. I always forget.
There's going to be so many booty jokes that you're just not even going to be able to contain yourself. It's going to be so many booty jokes all at the same time. This one, though, just kind of development diary. They kind of talk about how they wanted to create a game where you work together, and how the sense of camaraderie kind of comes from just kind of wanting to do stuff and have fun. Yeah, it's great. It looks really good. Actually, did you watch the first one of these, John?
I did not watch the first Inside Story. The big thing, the only thing I've watched is that E3 trailer thing where they had like people playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the first one, they had the first short haul video, which came out a little while back, was all about how apparently you can also like play instruments in Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah,
so you can get like an accordion or like a lute or something like that. And so that whole video was like they were attacking another ship, but there was one guy just standing on the bow of the ship with an accordion playing Ride of the Valkyries, like on an accordion, like their own soundtrack as they were rolling up to blast this other ship. I want this. It's supposed to be out for the game before the year is out, right? Sea of Thieves
I have no idea when this comes out.
Let me see if I can find official release date for it yet, because man, this could just end up being one of those ones that no release date, or at least not according to this. But
it says 2017. Everything I'm reading.
Nutsack. Oh, crap on a crapper. Well, shit. I guess I'll have to wait until next year for my pirate shenanigans. But man, I want some pirate shenanigans. How is it so hard to make a pirate game? John, I was just like, what was the last good pirate game? Sid Meier's Pirates?
Probably, yeah.
I'm trying to think, like the last game where you just like drive around in a pirate ship. Risen 3 was a big pile of garbage. There's been like 4 different Eastern European, like Blackbeard's Curse games that look like total garbage. I don't know. Maybe some of them are fine. I'm going to go to Steam and search for pirate games. Anyway, no, I'm not. We got to run a podcast here.
Yeah, we are.
All right, next up we have Project Relink with some other title, but I can't read it because it's all in Japanese. And this is a new Platinum game that I had no idea existed until today.
Cygames and Platinum Games.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think about this trailer, John? Get a chance to watch it.
It's a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're people in fantasy RPG armors and weapons and magic and fighting goblin looking things, and
it looks pretty generic, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I was trying to think. I think the last Platinum Games game, right, was the Ninja Turtles game, which I felt was a little bit like it didn't really do a whole shit ton for me.
It was terrible.
And then before that, was it Transformers last year? Was the one before that?
Yeah. Which that one was actually pretty good.
That was pretty good. I know I enjoyed that. It was a little pricey for what it was, but yeah, it was decent enough. This doesn't look bad. It just looks like a really super generic RPG. Like if you told me this was something that Enix was making or something that Square was making, there's like nothing in this trailer that really makes it stand out as like a Platinum Games game. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but if you had asked me, if you'd showed me this trailer and then asked me who made this game, I would have probably said Square or maybe like Bandai. No, who's
I probably would have said Bandai.
Yeah, Namco Bandai
or Sega.
Tri-Ace or something. Probably not Tri-Ace, but yeah. So I don't know. It looks strange. It looks like it has some potential. It may be the fact that it's so goddamn early that when they finally put out like a US actual English trailer, it'll be better. It'll seem better. And last but not least, on the trailer parade, there was a big old honkin'. This actually kind of comes in from last week. There was a big honkin' Gamescom hour-long Star Citizen presentation. Now,
so long.
It's
so long.
Did you get a chance to watch any of this?
I skimmed through it a little bit.
You know, I really, really want Star Citizen to work. I really, really do, because this trailer shows it's like two guys and they're in a ship, and that ship like they go to a system, they go down, they land on a planet, they get out, they're walking around, the other guy takes the ship off, and the guy gets back in it, they go to a space station, and while the one guy is in the space station getting the mission that they're going to go on, it's like he can look out the window and see the other guy hovering in his spaceship looking in. It looks really good. The planet that they landed on was a little bit bland. It didn't have a biome of any sort. It was just kind of dead rock. But they had a nice little cantina that he goes in to meet a guy, and then it's like they go out into space, they go to this waypoint, they find this guy, they blow up the ship, they disable the ship, and then it's like the guy has to go EVA and go over to the ship, and everybody's frozen. He's got to shoot some people in first-person shooter mode. Finds the thing that they're looking for, then steals this little speeder bike and flies it back to the ship. I mean, everything that it was is it's like every game that I've ever wanted since I was, a child. But man, it just seems. I really hope that it works out. I really do. The other thing about this that's really disappointing is that it appears that they just uploaded their Twitch footage directly from Twitch to YouTube. So the resolution is terrible, and there's all this kind of weird screen tearing, and it's a little bit blurry, so you can't really see a lot of details. But damn, I really want this to be a game. I really, really, really want this to actually work out. But there's all that. I don't know. I can't tell if the cynicism these days around Star Citizen is actual internet cynicism, or if it's just if there's something to it, or if it's just people on the internet being like, ooh, that game's never going to come out. It's stupid, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. Are they still selling $100 worth of ships that you could buy in addition to what you sold? Or what you?
I think so, yes.
God, that whole pricing structure, that's the thing, I guess, that doesn't... I guess that's the thing. I saw just this week, I was looking at people that were furious. They were furious about the optional microtransactions in Deus Ex, which are unnecessary. And I don't think there should be microtransactions, but the game itself doesn't there's the only reason that you would ever engage in them in a game like Deus Ex was because you wanted to just pay a whole bunch of money to get some upgrades instead of doing it inside of the game, which is completely and totally feasible. And yet Star Citizen just seems like they're asking you to buy this game over and over and over again, and I don't know. I don't know. Here's hoping.
Yeah. I am also hoping that it's good, but I'm not gonna. I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait till the game comes out.
Yep.
When it comes out, I'll judge it then, and I'll decide if I'm gonna buy it at that point.
Yeah, which seems like a real smart move for this one because it really seems like it could go either way. I mean, as I was watching it, there were a few times where I was like, oh man, this looks like some Battlecruiser 3000 shit, where it's gonna do everything, and then when it finally comes out, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Of course, then you have that whole Derek Smart thing. But all right, we got a couple more quick things to zip through here. Good news, everybody. PT is apparently, or Allison Road is apparently back from cancellation.
Yes.
Yeah, the creator, Christian Kessler, apparently was working and looking at it and kind of got the bug again and decided that him and his wife were going to start, or him and his wife are going to start a new company called Far From Home, and they're going to try to get this thing done and put it out. So, huzzah!
But yeah, it's going to be a lot longer than originally planned to get it out, because instead of having a team of what did you say when they canceled it? They had like a team of like 4 to 5 people. Now it's just like one guy, doing everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But hey, good news nonetheless. If you have to wait for a year and a half and then you finally get to play Allison Road, that's better than just never getting to play Allison Road. I mean, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we ever got any real.
It's good. It's if it's not, it's not.
Did we ever get any real information about what happened with why it was canceled before? It was just like, oh, Team 17 and the developer, they were like, nope, we're all getting along. There's no drama here. We're gonna go ahead and.
No, I think they've pretty much avoided what happened. Like, they haven't said, like, they've been very like, just things happen and we had to cancel it at that time.
Yeah. I wonder if there's another story in there. Last week somebody asked in the question section, like, what stories would you like to see behind the scenes of gaming? It might be one to put on the list, Allison Rowe. Apparently, okay, so okay, sorry, let me start over here. You played Titanfall 2 with me last week on the Sunday stream, John.
I also played it with you last week for Super Awesome Video Game Show.
You did indeed. And I don't know if you know this, but like I wandered over into the Titanfall subreddit last week. And apparently the people that were fans of Titanfall 1 are already just like, this game is garbage. And
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah,
because it's not as fast.
It's not as fast. There's some stuff that was taken out that people feel like the Titans are a little bit too fragile, that they blow it up too much, and just I need to stay away from Reddit. That subreddit, it was just people were like, "Oh, way to go, killing Titanfall 2. This entire franchise is dead now. You fucked it up. You fucked it. You're dead." And it was just like, wow, dude, can you just wait for like 1 second for the game to come out before we declare the whole thing is dead and gone?
Or what's even funny is like they came out and said, hey, we listened to your things. We understand. You said that it feels like the movement is slower, and you're right. But and that you felt that it took too long for you to be able to get the Titans, and that the Titans were too easily destroyed. We've tweaked some things. Guess what? We'd already announced that we were going to be doing a second alpha tech test. Which is this weekend. As of people hearing this, it's probably already over.
Yeah.
But they're like, we've made some changes and tweaked some things. Hopefully, it's more to your liking. Mm-hmm. Like the things that you complain about are actually things that we can tweak on the fly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it. I
liked it too.
If it was slower. I didn't notice. I was just like, I think the biggest complaint that I probably had from my time playing in that beta was that I wish that the grappling hook, that you didn't have to swap out the grappling hook for some of those other powers, because the grappling hook was so useful that I couldn't think of a good reason to ever swap it out for anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
then again, I never tried anything else, so I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I say let's wait until the game comes out before we decide that the whole thing is a giant dumpster fire of garbage. Speaking of dumpster fires, this is not actually a dump. That was a bad segue, but Dead Rising 4.
Good segue.
Oh, there you go. Dead Rising 4 is apparently taking the time limit entirely out of itself.
Yeah, no, they announced that a long time ago.
Did they? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
They announced that at E3, that they removed the time limit completely out, which I actually think is great.
Oh, well, boo. All right. Well, I got old news that I was so getting for news. This was on Destructoid, and it was listed a few days ago. So,
they announced that. They said that they are removing timers from the game unless you're playing the co-op story mode, which is a completely different thing, because the co-op story mode is actually a prequel to the actual Dead Rising 4 game. Mm-hmm. And the co-op story mode actually has timers like the previous 3 games.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, there we go. Let's just skip that and move on to we got 2 more before we take a break here. First up, the next 2 Division expansions have been delayed. Just FYI. If you're a person waiting for those, looking for your Season Pass content, it looks like Ubisoft is pushing those back in order to try to, if we read between the lines and we're slightly uncharitable, fix a lot of the problems with Division before they put out any more content for it. So they're working on patch 1.4 instead of the next DLC right now. So if you're sitting there waiting for it to happen, that's not going to happen just yet. I'm kind of curious to know. I wondered, is there a website where you could see like the number of players that are playing game right now? I'd be interested to know what the active player count for the Division is right now.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, there you go. And last but not least, hey everybody, hey, did you buy Mortal Kombat on the PC? Were you incensed that the Mortal Kombat XL stuff wasn't going to be available on the PC? Well, it might be. Because there's been a new branch on Steam for an enhanced online beta for Mortal Kombat XL, and so it's entirely possible that the PC people might be getting all that added bonus content, which, huzzah! I mean,
yeah, no, great.
Mortal Kombat X was real fun. So, and I thought that, that weekend that we had playing with that Triborg there, it's
Quadborg.
Quadborg. Sorry, yeah, not even Triborg.
No,
Quadborg.
well, that's the character's name is Triborg. But
yeah.
We called him Quadborg because there's actually 4 modes to it.
Oh yeah, that's right. The misnamed Triborg. So yeah. So look in. Keep an eye out if you've got that Mortal Kombat X on the Steam all of the Steams. I say keep an eye out because that DLC was actually really fun. It was super fun and. I really enjoyed it. So if you could pick that whole thing up for like, $10 on a Steam sale or $5 on a Steam sale, great. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the news. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to answer your questions. So stay right there. This will only take a minute, and we'll be right back.
All right.
And we are back. We're back, and it's time for the questions. Mail at ragelight.com is the email address to send your questions into. But before we get to the questions, I did marathon through Deus Ex Mankind Divided in 2 days. So all the way from beginning to end with all but I think like one side mission completed. So let's just talk a little bit about Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
I am curious about some things because I've heard some things from reviews online because I read some reviews on it that there was one thing that kind of kept popping up that I'm curious is if it's just people making a bigger deal out of it than there is, or if it's actually legit.
Hit me with it. I can answer that question.
Does it actually have an ending?
Oh boy. Okay. The ending is probably one of the weaker parts of the game. It seems without really going into any spoilers, it does wrap up, but it wraps up in one of the... So, when you're watching a movie and the movie ends and you're like, well, that was okay, but it seems like... So there's some... Okay, let's back up here and get all my ducks in a row, all right?
All right.
Some stories, just it's a story, it's a beginning, a middle, and end, and boom, you're done, right? Dead Space, right, is beginning, middle, end, you're done. Now, they do it in Dead Space 2, but Dead Space, the end of the game, they weren't like... if that had been the only game in the Dead Space franchise, it would have been a decent ending. Yeah. Sometimes a game or a movie or a video game, a book or whatever will leave the door wide open for a sequel where they're like, like the end of Mass Effect 2, right, is one where you're like, there's definitely going to be a sequel to this. This is a fairly complete story, but, at the end of it, everybody's just like, this was only the beginning, and they pull out, and it's like, oh, shit, there's going to be a third one. This one, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, leaves the door like halfway open, where they do have a threat and they do end it, but there's a lot of hanging threads about what was this person's connection to this? What was this? Like, if you couldn't be expected, I feel like, at the end of Mankind Divided to go directly from that and then let's say you were going to just go play the original Deus Ex, I don't feel like they would really line up. Like there's still a lot of questions left over. So yeah, it's decent. I have another thing that did you play all the way through Human Revolution?
No.
Okay. There's a point also at Deus Ex and in some types of games like this that are kind of like techno thriller type of things where the story starts to get a little muddy at a certain point where you're like, it's just like it's kind of a similar thing as to a bunch of previous storylines that I've seen. And it kind of started to get a little bit muddy towards the end. Like the side quests were decent. The writing is pretty good. It starts out fairly strong. Maybe the biggest problem that I had with the game is that, and I feel like this is also kind of a thing that I may have explored during Watch Dogs. For those of you who don't know anything about this game, one of the big facets of Mankind Divided is at the end of Deus Ex Human Revolution, this guy flips a switch that basically makes everybody that has augments in the world go nuts and start attacking other people. It's like the end of the Kingsmen, right? They all just go psycho and they start attacking people. So at the beginning of Mankind Divided, the world does not trust people with augmented powers, or at least Prague, which is your hub for most of the game, really doesn't trust augmented people. Like they're being, they're in bad conditions. They're treated poorly by the cops. If you get too saucy with them, they have an aug ghetto that they throw people into. That's just a horrible place. They do a little bit with that, but I feel like it was a little bit of a wasted opportunity to do more about. They never, because part of me looks at it, I'm like, in the first Deus Ex or in the Deus Ex Human Revolution, there was a through line of like, this person lost their leg in a car accident, so they got a new cyber leg, right? Whereas here, and so you start to get into the situation where you're like, okay, the world knows, it's not a total secret, I don't think, that there was a bad guy who hijacked all those AUG people and he flipped the switch and they all went nuts. Which, again, if you just have an AUG leg, I don't know, just your leg go nuts? You're just kicking your own ass. But these people are really getting shit on in this game where they're just like, fuck you. And people, like, there's a metro system that switches between the different areas that you go to in the game. And when you go in there, there's like, here's the AUG line and here's the not AUG line. And the game does a kind of a nifty thing where if you try to get on the non-AUG train, there's a cutscene. There's a loading screen when you get on the train to go to a different area that just shows Jensen standing in the train and doing his thing. And if you get on the non-AUG train, everybody's like giving you the side eye, and when you get off of it, the cops, they razz you a little bit. They're like, oh, whoa, what are you doing? This isn't your train. You're not supposed to be on this train. You're supposed to be on the AUG train. Don't let me catch you on this train again. And they do a few things with it, but they don't ever really seem to do a lot with it. Okay. In terms of the actual gameplay, it's an awful lot like Deus Ex Human Revolution, where you've kind of got this first-person view, but then you can also go into cover system. They really did a very good job, I felt like, with the whole... you could do it the way that you want to. You could bust in the front door and mow everybody down with a machine gun. I played the game mostly stealthy and non-lethal, which was a bit of a challenge, or a lot more of a challenge. But there's also, you could do this whole hacking thing, where if you have the hacking... one thing that I will say is a little bit of an issue with the game is there are these things in the game called multi-tools, and I think that they had these in the last game. And a multi-tool will basically give you the ability to just bypass a hack, right? So you don't have any hacking skills. This is a level 5 hack. You want to get in there anyway. You just point a multi-tool at it, you hold down this button, and it'll open it up regardless. Well, in this game, you can actually make multi-tools with this new crafting system where you pick up spare parts and you can build the multi-tools. And I found that in a lot of ways it seemed to trivialize a lot of the hacking stuff, because if it's a security panel in an area that's got a lot of turrets and stuff in it, all I do is whip out the multi-tool and then just boop, go right in there. And because they give you enough... The spare parts can be used to upgrade your guns and upgrade things, or you can use them to build stuff like ammo for the different cyber systems that you have, or multi-tools, or like the things that give you back health or energy. You could build those things with them. That all I ever used those for, because I was running in full stealth mode, I didn't need to upgrade my guns. I was using I was using the stun gun most of the time, which is like a one-shot thing. You got to reload it type of thing. And I didn't have any reason to upgrade the number of bullets I could put into that, because there wasn't there wasn't just not a reason. I didn't use any of the Typhoon or any of the things that used ammo, so I didn't have any reason to put it in there. So I mostly just ended up using almost all those spare parts to build multi-tools, which just let me bypass areas that I feel like there should have been more of an incentive for you to, like, if you want to hack stuff, you need to spec as a hacker. You need to put some points into hacking, not just whip out this. It was like you remember Mass Effect 1 where you could just smear the Omni Gel on a thing and just be like,
oh, yeah.
yeah, fuck it, man. I just smear some Omni Gel on it. It's kind of like that. I played on the PS4, and it's a little rough on the PS4. The frame rate is a little janky in a few parts. I'd say that the game itself was probably about 10 to 12 hours long. One thing that I will say is really a feather in the cap of the game is that it does have a New Game Plus mode. So that was what I was saying, where people were pissed off that you could buy Praxis points, which are your upgrade points online, or you could just play through the game and then go to New Game Plus and just collect the same number of Praxis points and max everything out if that's what you want to do. And it does kind of give the game a little bit of a nice replay value, because I played through the game once stealth, and now it's like, well, I can play through the game a second time and just put all my points into the combat stuff, so I can play it more combat focused. The story, the gameplay, the Prague is a big area. It's got like 4 or 5 different districts, and basically the way that this game is set up is you'll have a set piece area where you go there and you fight your way kind of from one side of the area to the other side, and then after that you'll come back to Prague, and in Prague there's like 4 different main districts that you can metro between. Each one of those is it's so dense with, like, here's somebody's apartment that you could just break into and take all their stuff if you want to. And if you don't want to, if you have, like, there's one of the powers that you get that lets you just kind of do that Dishonored jump. So you could spend a lot of times, like, up on top of buildings, jumping between balconies, which is pretty cool. It is a little bit of a disappointment because in Deus Ex Human Revolution, instead of keep bringing you back, like, I think you went to Detroit and then you went to, like, Shanghai and then you went to somewhere else, and they had like 4 or 5 different slightly smaller hub worlds instead of coming back to the same place over and over and again, which they try to make Prague change over time so that it feels different, but I just don't think that you get the same effect that you get, because, like, in Deus Ex Human Revolution, the difference between Detroit and Shanghai was very pronounced. Like, Shanghai was a very different place than Detroit. So also the bad guy in this game is not really well fleshed out. There's also a couple of times in the game where I was presented with a big choice where the game was like, oh, well, do you want to save these people from being blown up, or do you want to make sure that this guy doesn't get this information? And I feel like I need to go back and play it again, which I'm probably going to do because I don't have anything else on my plate right now. But I felt like those choices, you picked one of them, and then it turns out, oh, well, you get the other thing anyway. That they didn't have as much of an impact to the storyline as they did in some of the previous games. In Human Revolution, I also seem to remember that there were like 4 different endings that you got. You just kind of walked into a room and you were given like a choice between which ending do you want. And in this game, it was just a cutscene. Like at the very end, there was the news channel from the game basically came on and said, like, here's what happened to this person that you talked to. Here's what happened to this person that you talked to. So it felt a little bit less like I had agency in the world and a little bit more just like a single directed storyline. Other than that, though, it was good. I think that it was good, and I think that I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think it's great, and I think that especially, I have yet to look at any of the other platforms, but I think that the PS4 was kind of rough. Like, I don't know if I would want to play it as an action game, as a full-on shooter, which I haven't tried yet because the frame rate was kind of blech at a lot of points during the game. Yeah. There's also a multiplayer thing that looks like complete and total garbage. I didn't try it out, called Breach, where it's just like, it's like a virtual world where it's just, they took all of the things from Deus Ex and turned them into cyber constructs, and so you're looking to like get from one side of the level to the other, and you can use a bunch of powers that you had in the game. I haven't tried it out yet. But from the trailer, I remember it being like, it's like an asynchronous multiplayer thing, so you're not actually shooting other people. You're just like, oh, John, I beat your time on level 2-2 of Breach, and you're just like,
son of a bitch.
and then John goes, I don't care. That doesn't. I'm not even playing that game.
Well, my immediate reaction would be like, wait, why does it say that I have a time on there? What time did he beat? Who's playing my console and who has a copy of this game?
I came over to your house and played it just so that I had a score to beat on the leaderboards.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense now. I get it.
There's a DLC. There was like a pre-order second mission that I got where you start up and it's like, it's real strange because you start this mission up and it doesn't intersect with the game. Like it's not like it seems like it's part of the storyline of the game, but it's like a whole separate menu item that you have to launch. And when you launch it, that's another thing. Here's some craziness about this game. So I'm just going along and I'm making my save file the way that I normally make my save file, where I'm like, save file number 1, save file number 2, save file number 3. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do new save file just in case something bad happens to me. I get to save file number 11 and I say create a new save, and the game is like, you can't. There's no more space allowed for save file number 12. So then you have to go back and start overwriting your save files, which in today's day and age is like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean I can only have 11 save files? Even if they're big, I got 500 gigs on here. Are you guys making like 2 gig save files that I need to know something about? Because it doesn't seem like there's anything in the game that would necessitate having larger save files. It's not like Fallout or anything like that. So I literally had to just start saving over stuff. And then I went to go play this side mission that I think I got for pre-ordering, or I bought the game before it came out because I was thinking about doing a midnight stream, but then I didn't end up doing it. But I went to go play this side mission, and I went to go start the side mission, and it was like, you have to have 4 save game slots free in order to play this side mission. So I had to go in and delete 4 of my save games in the single player just to be able to launch the side mission. And then it didn't even transfer any of the praxis points that I had assigned in the single player over to this new thing. It's like it just dumps you in here with this minimum of points and then makes you play this piece of content that seems like it would have been... It seems like it could have been just seamlessly added in to the main game instead of being its own breakout thing. Very weird.
That seems dumb.
Yeah, very strange. Just like one of those things where you look at it and go, why the fuck? What? I don't understand. Here's another one, John, that I got so by buying the game ahead of time, I think I got a little pack that has 3 different armor sets and 3 different trench coats that Adam Jensen can wear. So when you hit the pause button, you go to this menu and it's like, which trench coat do you want to wear? And you go to pick a new trench coat and the game comes up and says, okay, if you want to do this, we're going to have to save your game, exit the game, and then reload back into the game in order to load this trench coat on Adam Jensen. And you're just like, yeah, why? I just don't understand this. So there was some weirdness like that. I think that the microtransaction thing has been vastly overrated. They had a problem early on where you got a bunch of like souped up weapons that you got for pre-ordering the game. And I think that when the game launched, they had this issue where you could only redeem those on one save file. So like if you started up and if you got all these weapons, you put them in your inventory and then you created a new game that they weren't there anymore. And I thought I saw a thing somewhere saying that they had fixed that. I don't know because I just ran through the game and then went to New Game Plus and was like, fuck it, whatever. But if that's the case, that's also a really weird thing where it's like, why would you restrict access? It's because you can't buy guns on this store. So why would you restrict access to this pre-order bonus to only one save game? Only one save slot is able to get this. That also seems really strange. So I don't know. It's got its problems, but God damn, am I a sucker for robots and cyberpunk and all that stuff. So I enjoyed my time with it. It was definitely one of those things where I was marathoning through it, and I was like, oh, I need to go to bed. And it's like, just finish this one side quest. It also does a really odd thing, I feel, where with the side quest where you'll get a side quest, and then the side quest will stall out until you've gone through one of the parts where you have to leave Prague and then come back to Prague, and then it picks up with the next part of that side quest. Except that when you get ready to leave Prague, it comes up with this really cryptic window that's like, if you leave, we're going to cancel all of your unfinished side quests. You need to finish your side quest before you leave. But it only applies to certain side quests, and other ones you're just at a pausing point where you need to leave and then come back again. So some weird shit all around. Also, for a game that I quick save and reload in all the time, I actually went online and looked at what it would cost to get a solid state drive because I was like, oof, these load times on the PS4. Yeesh. But some good stuff. It looks good. I mean, Adam Jensen is the most gravelly gravel to ever gravel it up.
I didn't ask for this.
I didn't. Nobody asked for it. I never did. It's a pretty decent storyline. It was kind of hard for me to see. There were some conflicts that were set up that never really seemed to resolve themselves, where you're like, he might be a traitor. And then it's like the game kind of just forgets about halfway. Oh, I guess he's not. Why did we think he was? I just forget about that. I don't fucking.
It was a good feeling. I didn't ask for this.
I didn't ask to have this traitor feeling. So I honestly feel like if I was going to give it, it's one of those games where if I was going to give it a score, I'd probably give it it's better than average. And if you like Deus Ex, it's probably worth playing. If you're expecting it to blow your brains out, which for the record, I didn't feel like I liked Human Revolution, but I didn't love Human Revolution the way that some people did. So if you're expecting it to just blast the back of your head off like Human Revolution did, it's probably not going to do that. You maybe want to wait for it to be on sale, or whatever. Or even, the DLC for Human Revolution was a separate executable. The Fall was a separate thing that you had to execute all on its own. And then when they put out the director's cut, they integrated that back into the game. So if you're really not in a big hurry, maybe wait and see in a year if there's a director's cut of this that puts all of the DLC in and all of the added bonuses, and you just buy the whole thing for $40 on a Steam sale and just get it all in one place.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea, good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're super psyched, yeah, go get it. I'm sure it'll scratch your Deus Ex itch, but I don't feel like it's like it may end up being on some of my Game of the Year list, but if it does, it's going to be somewhere between slot 8 and slot 10. Right? Or one of those games that just gets edged off the bottom where you're like, oh man, I really did like that Doom a little bit more than I liked it. Well, actually, Doom's probably going to be in my 1 through 5 on my Game of the Year list, but so yeah, that's Deus Ex. All right, so let's get on with the questions. So enough talking about Deus Ex. This first one comes in from Paul from London. Paul says, hi, Jeff and John. Now that the dust seems to be settling on the wave of internet outrage that accompanied No Man's Sky's launch, among the various debates thrown up, I wanted to get your thoughts on the age-old topic of community perception of indie games. While some people are claiming that they were ripped off after spending $60 and getting a game that didn't look the same as it was first shown 2 years ago, or that was supposedly missing once suggested features like multiplayer, comments have been thrown around that the high price tag wasn't warranted due to Hello Games being a small indie developer. It raises a lot of questions, as I wonder if the exact same game was published by the likes of Bethesda or Ubisoft, would people's complaints about value be less vocal? Are people paying for the size or quantity of a game, or is it as much to do with the size and quality of a studio or publisher? Are smaller devs being held to a higher or different standard, where even if a game is made that has the potential for as many hours of gameplay as an Assassin's Creed, people will only expect to pay $20 or $30? You're a loyal listener and now patron. Hey, thanks, Paul from London. Good question, Paul.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think, John?
So I think this is kind of a hard question because what you're asking is not a one-to-one for your example. Like you said, what he said was, if Bethesda had released No Man's Sky and they were the ones who made it and they had, same level of hype and everything, and it came out and it was the same game, and the only difference is that it was made by Bethesda instead of Hello Games or whatever the company's name is.
Yep.
Would we hold it to a different standard? And I say to that, well, one, the game would be 4 times as broken as it is if it was Bethesda.
Suck it, Bethesda.
Yeah, but no.
John's speaking truth to power over here.
No, but no, it's also one of those things that if Bethesda was the company to release it, there would have had to have been that game would have been disappointing. Like if Bethesda went, we made this game, we develop manpower to it. Here it is. I'm going to be like, this is what you made? Bethesda?
Yeah.
Same company that made Skyrim and
Fallout. Yeah.
And you made this that has so bare bones?
Mm-hmm.
Go fuck yourself. Like, I'd be more upset if a large publisher released that game with the level of hype that was on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
at the same time, I give this game a lot of passes me personally anyways, I give this game a lot of passes on a lot of things because it is such an indie, it is a small team of like 12 to 15 people that are working on it, and they're a small company, and there was also that flood that happened that they had to restart everything from the ground up because of that flood that destroyed most of their computers.
Oh yeah.
The fact that they are such a small indie team, I give them a lot of leeway on what I expect from them. Now, as the industry as a whole, I think the biggest problem is that your hardcore gamer like you or me or anyone that listens to this podcast, we know that it's a small team.
Yeah,
like we have no illusions that it was a small team. We knew exactly what it was. Most of us were a little bit like, well, it sounds a little bit too good to be true. I want to believe, but I'm a little hesitant until I get it in my hands. Like that seemed to be a lot after, especially after like 2-3 years or whatever. That seemed to be the reaction most people had. Like, I hope it's as good as they're saying and has everything that they're saying, but I need to have the game in my hands by now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Basically, at a certain point was, I keep seeing these gameplay videos and they keep looking very similar. So, like, I need to, at this point, it's possible that this might come up the way that it is. But anyway, that's ancient history.
But my point, though, is that your average gamer, the person who doesn't go online and look at the news and scour the news for the latest trailers and everything, just the person who has a console, maybe watches E3 on their console, the press conferences on their, streaming to their console through Twitch or something. Maybe they do that, maybe they don't. Maybe they just watch the Sony press conference and the Xbox conference and don't really pay attention to anything else that happens at E3. Maybe they're just looking at what shows up on their console. All they're seeing is Sony pushing this game like it's a AAA title that is on the level of, that is, that all they can assume, they don't know that Hello Games is a small 15-person team. All they know is that Sony is saying this is the next greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's gonna cook you dinner too on top of that. And they're like, whoa, this is a AAA game, and it's telling me everything I want to hear. I want to fucking play that. Now, had Sony at some point went, this team is only consisted of 15 people. It is an independent game that we are showcasing. But make no mistake, this is a small development team game this is a big game made by a small development team.
Yeah.
I think there would have probably been a little bit less backlash. Would there still be backlash? Of course.
It is the internet, Paul. People were going to be upset regardless of what it was, because it's the goddamn internet. So,
but had it been like, this is Ubisoft developed, and Ubisoft had a team of 20, of 60 some odd people on it, and we're releasing a $60 version of this game, I guarantee you people would have been twice as upset about it.
I guess the thing about No Man's Sky is, as we keep talking about, is, in answer to your question, I'm with John, where I think that if Bethesda or Ubisoft would have released this game, that it would have been even more despised, because people love. Fuck, dude, I love hating on Ubisoft. Some days, there's some days where I'm just like, God damn, you guys, put out a game where you don't. Of course, if it was Ubisoft, every planet would have had 4 towers that you had to climb up to, you had to land on top of.
Well, it's the only way you would have been able to see where anything is, to scan anything, is you have to climb to the top of a tower.
Right. But I don't think, and here's the thing, is that I don't think that I think that the fact that Hello Games is a small indie studio should be used as an excuse. Like, if I don't like the game, if I'm like, oh man, No Man's Sky, I thought it was going to have a lot more to it. I thought it was going to be a bigger game. I thought I was going to enjoy it more. Like, whoa, well, what did you expect from a tiny studio? Well, I expect a good game from a tiny studio, because there's no reason that, we've seen tons of indie games made by small teams that are fantastic. And we've seen we've seen other indie games. Just look at the garbage that comes out every week on Steam that are bad. And I don't feel like I don't feel like a game should get a pass just because it's like, well, it was only made by one guy. And it's like, okay, well, if one guy, and I'm not saying this about No Man's Sky, if one guy made a bad game that cost $20, it's not worth $20. It is a bad game. It doesn't matter if just one guy made it. Like at that point, I feel like you start to get into this whole situation where this is a bridge I had to cross a long time ago, which was this argument of like, well, why are you being so mean to these developers? They tried their best and they did a thing. And I'm like, I respect that. But if the thing that they made is bad, I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm not going to say that it's bad just so that what? Don't hurt their feelings. Like if you go out and you make a movie and it's an indie movie and you had $30,000 and you and your friends went out and made it and you'd show it to me and it's not good, then I'm going to say it's not good. I'll be like, yeah, this is an amazing achievement. You should do this. Is it a great movie? Well, no, it's not a great movie. So I don't know. I feel like if it was published by one of those larger companies, I don't think it would be the same game, honestly, John. I don't.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
The big companies like that would look at that game and go, this isn't going to work, or how are we ever going to sell DLC for this? Might be one of your more cynical things. Or we already know from market research that this type of game may or may not fly, or it's probably not going to fly, and that it's not a safe bet. They wouldn't put the amount of money in it that it would be needed. If No Man's Sky was created by Bethesda, it would be it would be like 20 different planets that were all way smaller, were more populated, a la Skyrim or Fallout, and you would start the game and it would be a lot more of a directed experience. I can't think of a company like Ubisoft or Bethesda making a procedurally generated game that is as ambitious as what No Man's Sky did. Which, don't get me wrong, even though I'm not a huge fan of the game, I still recognize that the tech and the intent behind it is ambitious as hell. It's just probably, I think that people would have been much less upset about No Man's Sky if it had come through on like a Steam indie channel. If it had been like one of those things that went into early access and was in early access for a year and they kept tweaking it, something like Minecraft, honestly, or Rust, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I do feel that we would probably have a lot less people complaining. Mm-hmm. Again, still be complaints, just a lot less if the game was $40 or, $40
or
something like that
maximum. Yeah, because there's also Paul, you're also running into a thing here where there is a cost to fun ratio for games that must be respected. You can't sell me when Bastion came out. Bastion's a great game. I fucking love Bastion. I don't think
Bastion's great. Totally awesome.
Would you pay $60 for Bastion? I don't think I would.
No,
I'd pay. No. Maybe 30 at maximum. Something like Fez. If Fez came out and it was $60, even though you could probably make yourself an argument for why a game like Fez might be worth $60, the market isn't going to stand for that. It's just not going to stand for something. There's a certain level of craft in games that I feel like you have to have for $60, and I'm trying to think of other procedurally generated games that we've seen, because they were kind of all the rage, right? I feel like
the thing is that, I mean, you can think of procedurally generated games and stuff like that, but I don't feel like there's been one on this scale as No Man's Sky.
You could maybe make an argument for the. I
mean, the closest you could think of would be Minecraft, and even then, I don't feel like it's to that scale. Like, I do feel like No Man's Sky's scale, large, how many planets there are, how big, what the space you can fly in, and all that stuff. There is more of it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. I think that it might be. I don't know. I still keep coming back to the idea that, yes, there might be more of it, but I feel like, at least from my side of the equation, that there's more quantity but not as much quality to each individual planet as Minecraft. I mean, like the way that Minecraft has to build a world where you've got biomes, you've got mountains, you've got streams, you've got bedrock, you've got procedurally generated like dungeons full of Endermen and stuff like that. You got pig villages and ice and snow and rivers and mountains and all that stuff. Like, I feel like each individual world of Minecraft takes a lot of crunching to put together. But that's just how procedural generation is different in every game. So anyway, well, thanks for your question, Paul. All right, our next question comes in from KR Spectre, who says, "Hey, Jeffers and John, why do people hate leader characters? I always hear that people think they are boring or assholes, but doesn't that come from a childish way of thinking? They're boring or assholes because they tell the team what to do, and people don't like being told what to do. It's probably the same reason that people hate cops. They don't like authority. I know some people will hate on a character just because they're the leader. Leonardo, Cyclops, Superman, I love all of them. I love leaders. It's because of leaders that bad boys look so cool because of the conflicting ideals. Wolverine, in my opinion, is only good when he's on the X-Men and can't do whatever he wants, and he has to argue with Cyclops. Wolverine on his own is boring to me. His solution is mostly to just destroy things and slash stuff up. I feel the same way about Raphael from the Ninja Turtles." From KR Spectre. So I guess this question is, why do people hate leader characters?
It's possible some of it may be what he said. I don't know. I like Leonardo. I like aspects of Cyclops. It also depends on which comic book Cyclops you're referring to now, because now there are two different versions.
Yeah. Also, I don't know that Superman is really the leader of the Justice League. He always seems to be more of a just like I don't know. Does the Justice League really have a leader per se? They have like one person telling them like
Batman.
I kind of got the impression the Grant Morrison stuff that
Martian
Manhunter was more kind of like the guy sending people out to do stuff. But
yeah. I think it just mostly depends on the way they're written, because I do feel like there are some people who do write the leader characters very boring, very vanilla, very not interesting. They're always going to do the right thing. They're always going to bark the orders and be perfect. However, I think there are a lot of writers who do write interesting versions of leader characters, and that when they are played off with other characters, or even characters that are similar to them, or even playing off characters that are completely different, just like you mentioned with Cyclops and Wolverine, maybe, or even characters that are similar that just have a different way of thinking, like Batman and Superman. Suddenly you can make those characters more interesting by exploring that dichotomy of that relationship.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. It also, I also feel like I don't feel like. I feel like you're talking about one specific archetype of leader character, because there's plenty.
I agree with that too.
Plenty of times where your leader characters are. I was just thinking of sci-fi TV shows. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek recently, and Captain Picard, leader of the Enterprise, cool guy. I think everybody likes him. And he's different to
James T. Kirk.
Yep. But. So I feel like what you're talking about is the kind of like uptight leader character. And, it's actually funny because I really liked, there was a, I don't know if this happened and if this continued through the comics, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here, John, but I know that during Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, which I think this is the second time that I've mentioned Grant Morrison in this podcast. I think so.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing about Cyclops and Jean's marriage is falling apart, and so he goes to Emma Frost for counseling, and then they end up having like a weird psychic affair that Jean finds out about, and it was great. It was like a crazy freaking storyline. It's just more that I guess I would consider Cyclops and Leonardo specifically in this examples to be more like repressed characters than just their aspect of being the leader. Making them into assholes or boring or whatnot. I don't know, KR Spectre, if you're out there in the real world, you ever get into an environment? Maybe, I guess the other part of it is having been in some situations where I was put in charge of other people, like in the real world. Also, a lot of times leader characters have to basically... I feel like most people aren't best friends with their boss, right? That it's like you have to tell people what to do. You sometimes have to tell them what not to do. Sometimes you got to mess with things that people want to do, and you got to be like, well, we're not going to do it like that because it wouldn't be the best way. So, but that's just the pain of being a leader. What can I say? I like to think of myself as the Cyclops of Rage Select. That's not true. I'm more like the the Magneto of Rage Select. No, I don't know.
Well, in the comics, modern day Cyclops, because there's two Cyclopses now. There's the current Cyclops, and then there's the Cyclops from the past who is transported to the future and is now trying to be a different person because he is horrified by what modern Cyclops has become, because modern Cyclops has become worse than Magneto.
Good God. Okay.
Yeah. He's the most hated mutant on the planet.
Woof.
Even Magneto went, no, you went too far.
Oh, man.
When Magneto's going, well, hell, modern day Cyclops killed Professor Xavier.
Aw.
He just flat out murdered him.
Spoiler alert. I did not know that.
Well, that happened a long time ago, but yeah.
All right. All right, let's see. Our next one comes in from Ron. Ron says, Dear Jeff and John, this weekend was a 10x times 10 experience and times 10 Silver Keys event for Evolve Stage 2. As with most free-to-play games, it is a serious grind to level characters up and earn Silver Keys normally in the game. There was some outcry about the level of grinding needed since microtransactions aren't in the game yet. However, quite a few people were outraged at how easy it was to level up the characters this weekend. Complaints ranging from old hands upset that newbies were getting out of the grind that they went through to people whining about not being able to judge a player's skill from their character level. I was thrilled as the event allowed me to get some characters and perks that I wanted without playing a couple hundred rounds. However, I did find it funny how people whine about something, but then get upset when a publisher addresses the issue. My question is this. What are some other examples of a publisher addressing issues in a game, but it only caused the customers to rage all the harder? Sorry for the longish email. Love the site. Keep it classy. Ron. What do you think, John? You got any examples off the top of your head? I got one that I can roll out if you want some time to think.
Go ahead. Think. I got to think, yeah.
So I...
Well, other than the probable outcry from the upcoming Titanfall 2 tech test part 2.
Oh, well, yeah.
That we talked about earlier.
No, I mean, I've actually could think of a few over the years. Actually, there was one that hit me pretty hard that was when they nerfed lightning in Dark Souls 2, which was an issue. It was overpowered. On the other hand, I feel like a lot of times when they did that, when they do a nerf like that, they'll swing too far in the other direction. But the one that I always feel like I always like to bring up is the little game called Star Wars Galaxies. For those of you who don't remember Star Wars Galaxies was the MMO that existed before Star Wars The Old Republic. It was originally created as a real strange game. It was very, very, very forward thinking, and it took a lot of weird leaps. Like, if you wanted to buy a gun, let's say you wanted to buy like a level 2 blaster in Star Wars The Old Star Wars Galaxies, the best way to get a level 2 blaster would be to go to the marketplace and you would buy a level 2 blaster. Now, you got that level 2 blaster because somebody else in the game set up mining equipment in a different part of the galaxy, purchased the blueprints necessary to make that, and then set up a factory to churn out level 2 blasters, and then took those blasters and put them on the galactic marketplace and tried to compete with the amount of money that everybody else was selling level 2 blasters for. It was crazy. And then they had a whole thing where you could become a Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies, but you had to find a holocron. And then it's like you had to like level up every job in the game to a certain level, or certain jobs to a certain level. And you had to go on this quest, and then when you do it, you'd finally get a lightsaber, because it was all supposed to take place in the Origtridge universe where Jedis aren't running all over the place. There aren't a billion Jedis. So they wanted to make it really difficult for people to become a Jedi. So they hid this whole horrible subquest that people had to go through in order to become a Jedi. And so I remember there was like the first person in Star Wars Galaxies to ever get a lightsaber. People would all gather around him on the server. They're like, ooh. So then at a certain point, World of Warcraft came along and started kicking the shit out of everybody. And Star Wars Galaxies numbers started going down. And so they decided to do what they called the New Game Experience, the NGE, and they integrated this thing where it was more like a World of Warcraft thing where you started the game, because it used to be it was one of those things where it's like you start the game as a blank slate, and then what you would do would determine kind of what class you gravitated into. And now it's just like a big panel. Which one of these 9 classes do you want to be? And lo and behold, one of the ones that was up there was Jedi. You just start out a Jedi Temple, you got a lightsaber, you get your force powers, you're going to do your thing. Oh man, were people pissed off about this. And for years afterwards, they were complaining about like, oh, Star Wars Galaxies is dying out, and it's all because you guys did that new game experience. It wouldn't have been a thing. It would still be a game that everybody was playing if you didn't do the new game experience. It's a horse shit, because the game was already losing subscribers. It was going, it is slowly downward trending player base. And when they did the new game experience, it actually brought some new players in. I mean, and then it started slowly dipping back down again. But people like to say that if it wasn't for the new game experience, Star Wars Galaxies would have never died out. And that's just not true. It was on its way to death when they did that enhancement. And so to say otherwise is just, it's a thing that you see a lot on the internet of somebody you just made a thing up. You don't have any inside knowledge. You don't know the subscriber base. You don't know what the financials were like. You don't know how many people they were. You don't know anything about the internals of that company and whether the game was making money or not. You just have an opinion, and you've decided to present your opinion as if it is an unassailable fact. So, sorry, that was my little, it's the one that I like.
No, it's actually a good example of what you're talking about. I still can't think of anything. So
okay. There's a couple, what was the other one that I was thinking about? I remember when Team Fortress 2 originally went free to play, there was a person early on who wrote a mod where it would like check the person's ID when they tried to join a server, and if that person hadn't purchased Team Fortress 2 for money in the store, it would like boot them. It was a way to make the servers only available, or a certain type of server available only to people who had paid money for the game, and not any of these dirty free-to-play jerks. I don't know. It's an attitude that's been around forever. There's probably 100 other examples that I'm not remembering.
I agree.
I know that when I was looking at that Titanfall subreddit, just like you were talking about, there were people who were just like, oh, you're ruining Titanfall. I love Titanfall. And it's like these people seem to have no earthly idea that Titanfall sold fairly well, but not well enough to continue as a franchise without trying to... It's that age-old question of, if you make a Titanfall 2 and it's just as niche as Titanfall 1 was, and your sales go down by 50%, there's never going to be any more Titanfall. Whereas if you change the game to try to make it appeal to a larger group of people and not the people who are specifically like, I got into this and I'm level 99 and I'm all about Titanfall, that you might attract enough of an audience to be able to allow that franchise to continue to have games. That just because you really like the way that a specific game plays doesn't mean that is marketable and profitable. And if it's not profitable, then that developer can make as many games as they want to that have that niche gameplay that you're so into. But if it doesn't make any money, then they're going to have to try something different. They can't just languish until the business, folds. You have to try something different. But so often people take that change so personally that they're just like, no, you fucked it up. You fucked it up, and it's all fucked up, and it's dead, and I'll never buy another game from EA ever again, and dicks. So, anywho, all right, we got a couple more questions here, and then we're going to get out of here. So next one comes in from Ty. Ty says, Dear Jeff and John, do you think that the video game industry is, in a way, cannibalizing itself with its marketing procedure? Latest example being No Man's Sky. Man, a lot of No Man's Sky today. Building the hype of release to a point that could not possibly be reached by the game and not delivering on promises stated by Sean Murray in interviews leading up to the release. Other examples would be pretty much anything Ubisoft has ever shown at E3 in the last 5 years. I understand that $60 is a lot of money, and people want to experience what they are buying before making the purchase. But the earlier we see it, the more hype we build for it, and the more expectations we have for a game. There seems to be a sweet spot somewhere lost in the middle of the process. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks. Long live the Dong Lord, your loyal patron, Ty. What do you think, John?
I don't think it is, but at the same time, I mean, that's just like one example.
Mm-hmm.
The No Man's Sky thing is just one example of them doing that, really. And I feel like there's always been a game that's been overhyped to a point of, like, No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes out, it's like, well, this was super disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was it? Like, the original Homefront was kind of that way as well.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and... You know, I can't think of anything other off the top of my head, but I mean, this is something that's kind of happened. It happens frequently in the game industry, and that's just because, you know, people hype games because they want you to buy the game. And, you know, and most times there is no malicious intent on, like, we're going to sell you something and give you something different in return, you know, than what we promised. I don't think there's any malicious intent in that. It's just, unfortunately, due to however many number of reasons, they didn't meet the what they had promised, unfortunately.
I think sometimes it does end up being a little bit malicious.
Oh no, there are definitely times where it does. It is
when he calls out Ubisoft and E3. I feel like this year, 2016, was the first time that Ubisoft actually showed what the games they're going to put out actually look like, instead of bringing up these like really pimped out PC versions, and then when they put it in the console, it's like, it doesn't look bad, it just doesn't look anything like what you like. When I was watching the video for Watch Dogs originally, and it was like, holy shit, this looks good, and then they did that thing where they capped it in the INI file, so you couldn't up the graphical fidelity to the point where it looked like it looked in that trailer, but then people found a way to like start turning stuff on, turn stuff off. I don't know. See, here's the thing, Ty. I feel like this happens in every sector. You know, that you'll pick a big Hollywood blockbuster movie, right? And they advertise the shit out of it. There's like 6 trailers and teasers and a featurette, and it turns out every time
and
you
then
want
you get Batman versus Superman,
right? Yeah, or Suicide Squad for that matter, which isn't the most horrible movie of all time, but like, you know, the trailers for Suicide Squad looked like a different movie than what the actual movie of Suicide Squad ended up being. As far, at least in my opinion, they did. I think that they made it look a little bit more like a more fast-paced action movie, and that it wasn't as action-packed as the trailers might have had you believe. I do think, though, that you can over-market a thing. Like, Mafia 3 has had at least 6 trailers that I've just skipped. Like, it's like, no, you sold me on it, Mafia 3. But if I watch every single one of these, I feel like every one of them that doesn't show you something else super groundbreaking kind of dulls the hype a little bit.
Yeah, no, I've purposely avoided any trailer. Like, I saw the trailer when I went, okay, that's a game I want. I've avoided all other trailers because I don't want to be overhyped. Though I will say, speaking of Mafia 3, I did notice their collector's edition, like their big collector's edition, has 2 different vinyl records of the soundtrack.
Oh, wow. Well, then there was a story that I skipped over where there was apparently like 100 different licensed music tracks on the soundtrack.
Like there's one vinyl that's the actual score of the movie, the soundtrack that they made for Mafia 3, not movie, but for the game. And then the second vinyl is like what would be released as a soundtrack if this were like a movie, like it's all the licensed music. And I was like, man, if I was a vinyl collector, those look nice. I would totally buy those. I would totally get that collector's edition.
Oh, holy shit. This game is going to have such a... Like, I didn't look at this before. Did you look at the soundtrack list for this thing?
It's a good soundtrack.
Jesus. I mean, hell, the fact that it starts with question mark and the Mysterians, I'm like, hell yeah, question mark and the Mysterians. But yeah, I mean, I feel like you can overhype a thing, and again, I feel like No Man's Sky is a good example of there was a lot. I think that No Man's Sky would have been better serviced if it was that first trailer and then maybe like 2 other trailers and then put out the game. I think that letting Sean Murray talk to people and letting him be all like, well, I don't know, I don't want to talk too much about this. Like, I feel like he did a lot of that leading up to this game. There were a lot of interviews with him going just like, I don't know. It kind of like he kind of reminds me and please, I really don't mean this in the extreme, but he kind of reminds me a little bit about Molyneux, about a guy like Molyneux, like a guy who is so...
You're going to plant an acorn in the ground, and you're going to watch the acorn grow into a tree, and then that tree is going to produce more acorns that you could then plant in the ground and watch those grow into another tree.
Fuck you, Peter Molyneux. Fuck you for saying that's garbage. But more just like he's so wrapped up in his vision that, you don't have anybody to be like, we can't actually do that in this game engine. Like, or making sure that your wish list of features, that there isn't something that your feature set is 100% locked down before you start answering questions. Yeah.
Well, going into Molyneux, there was a problem there because one of his games, I remember hearing people talk about how like they'd be working on the game and then he'd do an interview and he'd start talking about features that were in the game that have never been talked to about to anyone. And then he would come in after the interview went public and went, okay, we're going to make that feature a reality now.
Nice.
Put that in the game.
Nice.
And they would be like,
that's not how it works. That's not how it works, Peter.
That's not how any of this works, Peter. What are you doing?
You're basically writing our design document in interviews. Thanks. But there's a balance. There's a balance, and you can't be too coy. And that's one of the things about this is that actually, in thinking back on it, when I think to like Inside, the latest that game from the Limbo guys, I don't remember there being like a million interviews with those guys. I remember there being like 2 trailers and then the game came out, right? Instead of just like, at a certain point, I feel like he maybe got a little bit blitzed by how much the press and people were into the trailer for No Man's Sky, that he was taking interviews that he probably should have just been like, you know what, guys, I need to go work on my game.
Well, another example of a game that I'm kind of on in all honesty, I am well past the hype train for it, even though it's not like super hype because there are a lot of people that still have never heard of it. But Cuphead.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like every E3, I end up seeing a video or two about it. And it's like, I have seen so many videos about it that I'm just like, okay, it's great.
Oh.
I want the fucking game.
Final Fantasy.
Stop hyping it to me.
Final Fantasy 15 is like that. I've gotten to the point where I really don't care anymore about the trailers for Final Fantasy 15 because you've shown me enough. You got me excited, and there's a certain point past, for me at least, there's a certain point where the more trailers you show me, the less excited I'm getting about it. You're just like, stop showing me trailers, start putting the game out. In comparison, I was just looking at the release dates for stuff coming out the rest of the year, and here's a picture of Recore. Remember that?
Yeah, no, it comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks.
And I'm like really excited for that. I haven't seen that much about it. I mean, it looks like it's going to be cool. Where that's one of those things.
I have some reservations about it because it's, the same people who made
Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah. Same studio too?
Yeah. No, well, they split up the team that was working on Mighty Number 9 to work on Recore.
Is that what happened to Mighty Number 9?
That's the rumor.
Oh, well, they're also said they've got a separate studio, Armature Studio, here in Austin. Oh, go knock on their door. Who worked on? Wait, are these guys? They used to be Blue Point.
They might have been.
Games developed. Oh no, the Vita version of the HD Solid collection. Oh, they've mostly been doing ports, it looks like. All right, anyway, one more question, then we're done. This last one comes in from... Put your name at the end of your thing. I'm going to call you Mark. Mark says, hello, Jeff and John. So I've been watching this anime show called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Says Season 4. And then in parentheses, he says, don't know if your lady friends are watching it since they like anime. I don't know. Okay, maybe. Oh, this is a hard one. It's written very difficultly. Okay, I've been watching this anime show called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where it's a manga that's been running for 30 years, where the heroes fight villains with their persona, which are named after a song or a band name from the 80s or 90s, like Killer Queen or Another One Bites the Dust. After hearing these song names, I've looked them up and instantly fell in love with various bands from the 80s. I like to hear their music. My question, have you ever heard or seen a different source of media in a movie /show /or video game that made you go look it up and really love it? If not, if I'm not making this clear, here's a short example. In the movie trailers for Hardcore Henry and Suicide Squad, they played Queen songs that I would never have bought or heard if it wasn't for those trailers. Hope this makes it a little bit clearer for the question. Have a fantastic day. And then he says, P.S. Jeff, if you're looking for a good horror movie, look up Don't Breathe. Not going to say any more because just one trailer and the premise sold me to go see it when it's in the theater soon. That one's on my radar, but I don't like to go. I really don't like you got to drag me to a movie theater. I don't like just going to the movie theater. It's not a thing that I'll do unless there's a big thing. So that was kind of on my list, but it's kind of like It Follows, where everybody's all hyped about it, but I'm just going to wait and see when it eventually comes out. So we're talking about media, be it music. Probably it sounds more like music that you saw or you heard in a movie or a show that led you over to, or a video game that led you over to that artist and got you all up into some nostalgia. Can you think of any good examples?
No, I've had that a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to think of off the top of my head.
I think that as far as Queen goes, I probably heard more Queen in movies and TV shows before I saw before I actually went out and listened to a Queen album. In fact, I don't even know if I really listened to a Queen album. I really just listened to singles that I've heard in songs. I remember.
I'm going to be honest. As a kid,
mm-hmm.
I would not know who Queen was if it wasn't for Highlander.
Oh, really?
And Flash Gordon.
Okay.
Like those two things. And then they were like, in the band that made the soundtracks for both of these movies also makes their own music, and I'm like, holy shit, kind of thing. I'm trying to think of some of the other. I
mean, everything from the Guardians
Disaster Piece
soundtrack. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
The people that they partially turned on to me by Amanda, but they were the guys that made that did the soundtrack for Fez, and then also a movie I can't remember.
Okay,
what movie it was?
It's kind of like chiptune stuff.
Yeah, kind of. They were kind of like, because of that, because of Fez, like I was like, I want to know more about that. And Amanda's like, I'm gonna go look them up, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then she was like, by the way, do you remember when I told you I was gonna look that band up? Yep, this is who they are. I'm like, cool,
nice.
They're really good. The Pillows.
Oh yeah,
another band, FLCL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Fooly Cooly.
Introduced me to them.
Yep. It's funny because it used to be, I don't know, I've kind of fallen off, but it used to be that I would get probably about a half dozen new songs that I really wanted to hear from any Wes Anderson movie that came out, right? Like, you listen to like Rushmore or something like that. Oh, actually, I'll tell you another one that really used to do that as far as movies go. Back in the old days, I feel like Tarantino was so good at that. Like that Pulp Fiction soundtrack, I probably would have listened to half of those songs if it wasn't for the Pulp Fiction soundtrack of taking these outdated songs and throwing them into this movie. I'm trying to think of like a video game that had a similar. You know what? The original Guitar Hero. There's about half of the songs on the medium tier or higher that I probably wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have I wouldn't have had any exposure to otherwise. And not.
Oh yeah, no. Even Rock Band, same way. Like, there's a lot of music that was in Rock Band, as both in the game and the DLC, that from bands I never would have checked out, that because they were in those games that I totally went out and like found their album and like bought it and downloaded it and listened to it and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because in Rock Band 1, I feel like all of the stuff, I feel like depending on how old you are, that it's like, okay, so I knew, Pantera and Queen and David Bowie and, the Ramones and stuff like that from Rock Band 1, but I would never have listened to Sum 41 if it wasn't for the Rock Band 1, because I would listen.
I think that's an age thing, because I grew up on Sum 41.
Yeah, probably so. Probably absolutely. I do know that Rock Band 1 started a love affair / horrible obsession with the band Boston that exists to this day. I make my friends play all the songs off of that. And when they released for Rock Band the whole album Boston by Boston, I was like, we're going to play this entire thing, and I'm going to learn how to play the drums for all this stuff, and it's going to be awesome. And so
Boston and Journey, those
Oh, Journey. I'm trying to think of where I first rubbed up against Journey, where I first encountered Don't Stop Believin'. Oh, and Freeze Pop on the Guitar Hero soundtrack. I would never...
Freeze Pop's another one, yeah.
Never have listened to them otherwise. I got to say that there's a fair amount of, like, once video games started to get into having licensed music on the soundtrack, like on the... Grand Theft Auto 3 80s channel. Listen to the hell out of that. I actually picked up on a lot of interesting hip hop from the San Andreas soundtrack as well. Stuff that I just wasn't, didn't run up against when I was that age to do so. So yeah, I think anything else? Anything else you could think of?
No, that's pretty much it. That's all I can think of.
Okay. I'm sure there's more, but it's hard to just jump, to just throw these things out on the fly. Well, thanks everybody for writing in, and that's going to be it for our show this week. If you have questions, send them into mail@rageselect.com. That is the email address. That is how you get in touch, and that is how we get back in touch with you. So you write the emails, we read them, we answer them, and you know how it works. Come on, you're a smart internet fellow. And with that, John, I think I'm going to go play... I'm trying to think. Do I still have my Guitar Hero guitar? Do you still have your Guitar Hero guitar? Like the original, that little Fisher-Price one? Because I really could...
I have for the PS2, yeah.
Do you have a PlayStation 2?
I also have a wireless one.
That works? You have a PlayStation 2? Oh, man. We have got to play some Guitar Hero. Let's go play some Guitar Hero.